So in this section, we begin to move away from inductive reasoning, which is following patterns to make a conclusion. And we start talking about deductive reasoning, which is a different type of reasoning. Deductive reasoning does not make a conclusion based on a small amount of evidence. It makes a concrete conclusion based on irrefutable evidence. The way I like to describe deductive reasoning is what Sherlock Holmes would do. He would take one fact, use that to find another fact, and continue that path as long as he needed to in order to figure out the conclusion that he needed. Deductive reasoning is absolutely 100% provable, whereas inductive reasoning, there's always some doubt that you could be wrong in your conclusion. So, to link the two together, how can this conjecture that all teens like music be supported inductively? Well, for inductive reasoning, something we could do, we could take a survey. We could talk to 20 people, 100 people, even 1,000 people, and if they all said yes, we would have evidence to support this conclusion, but we would not have proof. Can this conjecture be proved? Well, the only way to prove it absolutely deductively is to interview every single teenager in the world. Because remember, all it takes to prove a conjecture false is one counterexample. So if we found one teen who didn't like music, we would say that the conjecture is false. The only way to prove it is to find every teenager. Is that possible? Not really. It would involve talking to hundreds of millions of different people in all different countries with all different languages. So the logistics of it would be almost impossible. In theory, could it be done? Yes, with enough people going around and asking questions, it could. But then we would have to ask the question, so what if it takes us 6 months to survey everybody? In those 6 months, some people will become teenagers who weren't at the beginning, and some people will graduate, if you will, from being 19 to being 20, and they'll no longer be teenagers. So how do we sort between that? It becomes very difficult to prove this, just because of the nature of what the evidence that we need to prove this conjecture. So that's the difference between inductive and deductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning takes a small piece of evidence or pieces of evidence, makes a conclusion that may or may not be true. Deductive reasoning bumps that up and means that we have to get enough evidence to absolutely guarantee that a conjecture is true.